Public Meetings Act pursuant to Public Laws 1975, Chapter 231. This agenda is complete to the extent known and was sent to the Trenton Times and the Trenton newspapers, posted on the first floor bulletin board in the City Hall and filed in the City Clerk's office. Formal action will be taken. Roll call.
Mr. Blakely. Present. Ms. Caldwell-Wilson. Present. Mr. Harrison. Present. Mr. Michelle. Mr. Rodriguez.
Present.
Ms. Vaughn.
Present.
Ms. McBride.
Present.
Members of the governing body, we're going to our invocation and flag salute. There will be a slight modification of the agenda, after which Mr. Blakely's honoree was not able to make it this evening, so we will have Mr. Terry West and Ms. Michelle Madu do a slight presentation regarding mental health awareness. Let's stand for the invocation of flag salute. Almighty God, who holds the fate of man and nation, we most humbly beseech thee to bless this our city, these deliberations, and these thy servants, that they may act with wisdom and understanding for the good of our community and thy greater glory. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. West and Ms. Madu.
Thank you, council members, and good evening, Mayor. About a year ago, the county executive, Brian Hughes, launched a mental health awareness campaign in the county, and we were asked to visit each municipality and have each municipality introduce a resolution dedicating that month to mental health awareness. And I'm with Michelle Madu from our office, and she would like to speak more about her campaign. And we want to thank you for introducing the resolution tonight and making March Mental Health Awareness Month.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having us here tonight. We're so excited that Trenton is passing this resolution. It's just so important that we think about stigma and how it affects people who live with mental illness and talk about it. So we all know that stigma associated with mental illness really operates very broadly in our society. It's also internalized by individuals, and it acts as a barrier to help-seeking behavior, which increases risk for maladaptive coping strategies. So if people aren't getting the help that they need because they're embarrassed around their mental health symptoms or mental illness symptoms, then we know that there's an increase in risk for self-harm and even death by suicide. So the Stigma-Free Commercial campaign was implemented to address the causes and the impact of stigma and to promote dialogue about how we talk to and about each other in our everyday lives, in our jobs, in our homes, in our places of worship. It's just so important to consider how we talk about and to each other. And so the goal is to foster a sense of competence, confidence, dignity, and hope in the help-seeking process. So to share the stigma-free message, we offer a variety of special programs and trainings that address the various ways that stigma associated with mental illness is experienced and expressed, specific to race, class, gender identity, faith, culture, and age. So again, I'd like to thank this entire body and the mayor for adopting this, passing this stigma-free resolution. And you have access to our contact information should you want further information about some of the services that we can provide. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Each month, when we left you a T-shirt and a wristband recognizing, and each month we ask the council if they would like to stand and do a group photo, which our office will then promote with social media and the press.
With the council president hold the front up, and then all the other members hold up a T-shirt with the back showing. Thank you.
recognizing March as Mental Health Awareness Month in the city of Trenton. Whereas there is a proven connection between good mental health and overall personal health, and good mental health is critical to the well-being of our families, communities, schools, and businesses. And whereas mental illness affects almost every family in America, and millions of adults and children are disabled by mental illness every year, and greater public awareness about mental illness can change negative attitudes and behaviors towards people with mental illnesses. And whereas people with mental illness recover if given the necessary services and supports in their communities, yet only 1 out of 2 people with a serious form of mental illness seeks treatment for their mental illness, partly because of stigma and fear of discrimination keep many who would benefit from mental health services from seeking help. And whereas people with mental illness make important contributions to our families and our communities, and research shows that the most effective way to reduce stigma is through personal contact with someone with a mental illness. Now therefore be resolved by the City Council in the City of Trenton, County of Mercer, State of New Jersey, that we hereby recognize the month of March as Mental Health Awareness Month, and call upon all Trentonians, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools to recommit our community to increasing awareness and understanding of mental illnesses, reducing stigma and discrimination, and promoting appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental illnesses. Is there a motion?
Second.
Mr. Blakely?
Yes.
Ms. Colville-Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Harrison?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes.
Ms. McBride?
Yes.
Resolution 19-55 has been adopted. Members of the governing body, next on the agenda, I present to you the Honorable Mayor Reed Cosiora from the City of Trenton, who has requested to come before this body to seek advice and consent on the appointment of Adam Cruz as the business administrator. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Clark, and thank you, Madam President, and distinguished members of council. And I also want to thank you for that last resolution. I think all of us know family and friends that have slipped over the years and have been devastated by mental illness, and it is so important that they not be turned away from services or be part of the stigma of mental illness. Members of council, I'm here 8 months in, and there's no shortage of challenges, as we all know, in the city of Trenton. But there's no shortage of people with solutions, and I see a lot of positivity out in the community, and I think that they see the city indeed moving forward. In the 9 departments that we have in the city of Trenton, there are many challenges, and that we've been able to attract some good talent to help us with those challenges. And the big center of that is the business administrator. And we want to make sure that we had one who was well qualified, that had experience, and that knew the businesses, not only of this city, but other cities, so that they would bring back best practices. I invited Adam Cruz to come in. He was formerly of the city of Elizabeth, went on to the city of Newark, where he was an assistant business administrator. He's a former purchasing agent. He had worked in housing in Elizabeth, and then became the business administrator in Perth Amboy. I think in his many years of working as a public servant, Adam knows how to tackle the tough problems and make sure that the affairs of the city are put in order and that finances are taken care of. I've been encouraged by Adam's short tenure in my cabinet, but also working with the men and women in the departments. He's very approachable. People that know him have given him high grades, and I think he's one that is able to not only reach out to the diverse communities that we have in the city, but be able to pull people together and make sure that our problems are indeed solved. So with that, I'd like to put in the name Adam Cruz to be the permanent business administrator for the city of Trenton.
Thank you, Mayor. If Mr. Cruz would like to say anything, would you like to say anything? Would you like to say anything? Would you like to say anything?
Good evening, Council, Madam President, Mayor, Chief of Staff, Yoshi. I want to take this opportunity for allowing me to come before you and also afford me the opportunity, the privilege to work for the residents of the city of Trenton. Being a public servant is actually an honor. There's a lot of responsibilities that go with that. And I am here before you because I am, want to let you know that I am committed to this great city, to the history behind the city of Trenton. And I believe that my ability and my skills are a perfect fit for the city. And I will be here serving you, the residents, mayor, and everybody else with honor and respect. So with that said, I want to thank you all for taking me on, and I hope that I can meet your expectations in the coming future, and continue to move the city forward as it should be.
Councilwoman Cole.
Mr. Cruz. Mr. Cruz.
Yes.
So first of all, for your short tenure, I'd like to say that it has really been a pleasure working with you. You're always gracious, polite, and I know I just have a gut feeling that the best interest of the residents of the city of Trenton is in your heart. And I look forward to working with you, and you will have my full support.
Thank you very much.
Councilman Jerome Blakely.
Thank you, Council President McBride. Well, I asked you a number of questions on Tuesday. You answered them to my satisfaction. Additionally, I've been pleased with your administration of the Department of Administration. Your reputation precedes you. I know some folks who knew you in Newark and had nothing but good things to say about your qualities and character. And I really look forward to you doing a good job as your permanent director. Salute to the mayor for putting up such a distinguished nominee, and I believe he has the skills to move the city. And I think it should be noted that the Department of Administration is one of the most important departments in the city, and I'm just happy that there's someone of your caliber at the helm of it. So thank you. I look forward to working with you, and Godspeed. You don't have an easy job ahead of you, but I believe you are prepared to make a positive contribution to the city we all love.
Thank you. Very kind words. Thank you.
Councilman Joseph Harrison.
Mr. Cruz, first time I met you, I'm going to say I've been impressed the way you interact with people, the way you want the city, the best for the city. Newark's lost and Strength's gained. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Give my support.
Councilman Santiago, did you want to say anything?
I have to thank you for coming to Trenton to help us here. During my city congress, I had a bit of fun.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Lana Long.
Well, welcome aboard, and welcome to Trenton. Of course, this is my hometown. I'm third generation Trentonian, so I am looking forward to your contribution to my city and hoping that you play a pivotal role in turning it around. Sometimes, more times than not, folks, up until they get confirmed, they're very enthusiastic and very ambitious, and they say all the right things. And of course, post-confirmation, then for some reason, whatever reason, they may fall. The enthusiasm and the sort of the hard work will decline. I will certainly support you. However, look forward to me also continue to keep the pressure on, and I will continue to hold you responsible and accountable for the work that you have committed to take on for the city of Trenton.
Thank you. Well, one of the things that they say about pressure is that diamonds are actually created at the highest pressure in the furnace. So I look forward to that.
We'll see about that.
Mr. Cruz, I would like to say that we're gonna, right now, go to a vote, and in a few seconds, be able to congratulate you for your position. Mr. Harris, if you could take this to a vote.
So is there a motion to accept Resolution 19-114, consenting to the appointment of Adam Cruz as business administrator?
So moved.
So, second.
Moved by Mr. Blakely, seconded by Ms. Caldwell-Wilson. Are you ready for the vote?
Yes, we are.
Mr. Blakely?
Yes.
Ms. Caldwell-Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Harrison?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes.
Ms. McBride?
Yes.
Resolution 114.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And one last comment, with your vote of support, unanimous, I am committed to the city, and I will do the best that I can every day that I come to work to make sure that the best interest of the city is in my mind, whatever decision I take. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Harris.
Next on the agenda are the approval of minutes from the January 23rd, 2019 budget hearing, the January 28th, 2019 budget hearing, the January 29th, 2019 budget hearing, the February 7th, 2019 regular meeting, and February 21st, 2019 executive session. Is there a motion? Mr. Blakely?
Yes.
Ms. Caldwell-Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Harrison?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes.
Ms. McBride?
Yes.
Minutes have all been approved. Next on the agenda is the acceptance of 26 items of communications. There are 0 petitions and 2 reports from the city clerk's office. 2 applications for raffle, one filed by St. Francis Medical Center to hold an on-premise handbag bingo on April 2nd, 2019. And the second filed by Mount Carmel of Trenton to hold an off-premise 50/50 raffle on May 23rd, 2019. Is there a motion? Accept the communication petitions and reports. Mr. Blakely?
Yes.
Ms. Caldwell-Wilson? Yes. Mr. Harrison?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes.
And Ms. McBride?
Yes.
These items have been accepted. For your consideration, well, there is no unfinished business that you need to handle. Does anyone from the public at this time wish to comment to the governing body on any new business only, which are ordinances or resolutions that are on the docket? Seeing none. Next is the adoption of the consent agenda, which will consist of resolutions 19-51, 19-55, 19-87 to 19-92, 19-94, 19-100 to 19-103, 19-05, 19-105, 19-108 to 19-113. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Excuse me, Mr. Harris, 19-51 is roll call, isn't it?
19-105.
No, 19-51. Should be a roll call.
That will be a roll call.
You mentioned that in your block of
Said 1951.
Yes.
That's correct. Authorizing the conduct the accelerated tax sale.
Okay, yes, thank you.
That should be a roll call. That will be a roll call. So as presented with the exception of 19-5, 19-51. Is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Ready for the vote?
Yes, we are.
Mr. Blakely?
Yes.
Caldwell-Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Harrison? Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes.
Ms. McBride?
Yes.
Consent agenda items have been approved. Next for your consideration is resolution 19-51, which is a resolution authorizing the city of Trenton to conduct an accelerated tax sale prior to June 30th, 2019.
Yes, Governor.
Thank you, President Rice. Can I have the business administrator come up?
Mr. Blakely, you need to have the motion is to be moved and seconded before you go.
Okay, so moved.
Now you can go.
Thank you, sir. So I have a few questions just to clarify for the record, the accelerated tax sale, so that we all have the same set of facts as we deliberate on this very important resolution. Can you explain what a tax sale is? Not accelerated, but just what a tax sale is and the obligation of the city to have it.
Yeah, so the reason why we have tax sales is because there are times when residents fail to pay the taxes or the water bills. So that is the reason why there are tax sales, in order for us to recuperate the money that is not being paid.
Is this a statutory requirement from the state to host a tax sale?
It actually is, because it brings money into the city.
Okay, so can you explain when Trenton first had an accelerated, well, let me go back before I answer that question, or ask that question. What's an accelerated tax sale?
So the accelerated tax sale, we call it an accelerated tax sale because there are times when municipalities are in need of the funding ahead of a normal tax sale. And cities like, for example, the city of Trenton that have been going through some hard times with the finances, they use it as a tool to be able to acquire the money a couple of months ahead of time and use it in the years that is being budgeted for. For example, here in Trenton, the money was actually accounted for in the 2019 fiscal year budget. So with that said, the accelerated tax sale was actually added to the 2019 budget.
Okay, so when you say accelerated, can you give us an idea of what that acceleration looks like? So, for example, a tax sale is generally held in the beginning of a fiscal year, and an accelerated tax sale in our beginning of our fiscal year is July 1. Can you give me an example of when an accelerated tax sale of this nature would be scheduled?
A couple of months before actually the July. So May.
So you would have it in May. So you're talking about.
So that we can take advantage of the money that we earn and put it into the year that it was budgeted for.
So just to make clear for the record, you can only, when you raise money in a fiscal year, you have to spend it in that particular fiscal year.
That is correct. Well, that is actually what the budget has actually, since we counted in the 2019, yes, that is when we are going to use it.
Okay.
So unfortunately for us, it has been a practice for several years. I believe it's
Well, that was my next question. When did we first start having it?
since 2004, so yeah, 14, 15 years now.
So say if we fail to pass this resolution for an accelerated tax sale, what would happen? What would be the gap for this existing fiscal year?
So the number I believe we had in the budget was $3.8 million. Okay, so it's 2.7 in total, but when you do the calculations in the end, that money actually turns out to be $7 million when you don't capitalize on the accelerated tax sale.
Could you explain that to me, just so that everyone's on the same page with the same facts?
We have expenditure that it's not just the money that we should be acquiring when we do the accelerated tax sale, but it's also fees and other things that go into it, as well as the reserve, correct.
So let me ask another question. Because we're getting this money several weeks and months earlier than we normally would, are we getting less money with an accelerated tax sale than we would if we held it at the beginning of the next fiscal year, as traditionally before we changed to an accelerated tax sale would occur?
It would probably not be a big difference. You're probably talking about, per household, probably say maybe, if our average collection is going to be from somebody who has not paid their taxes, If it's $500, then maybe it'll be $50. Because it's only a couple of months, it's not really, it's not really a lot.
So let me ask you another question. If this is just for the public, I know the answers to these questions, I just want to make sure that everyone knows the answers to the questions. So what would happen if someone goes and their house is sold? Is their house immediately sold? Like, so for example, if there's a little old lady who, unfortunately, she has a fixed income, her tax lien is sold, does she lose her home immediately?
No.
Could you give me the timeline when she would lose her home?
Well, it's a long process. I mean, it will probably take years before that happens. 8 consecutive quarters they have to be delinquent at least.
So that's 2 years.
2 years.
So they have 2 years from when a tax lien is actually sold to pay back the tax lien.
And this is actually us moving into doing that. But then you also have the process in the courts that may take some time as well. So on our end, that's when we do the closing, but then, move to do the foreclosure, but then they also have their legal options.
And now my final question. What would happen if we decided not to go for this accelerated tax sale?
Well, then we end up with a budget hole of $2.8 million, and it turns out to be about $7 million in the end.
What would be the consequence of that? Like, what would be the manifestation of those cuts?
Well, it means that we are going to have a budget gap for the closing of the year, and then that money actually ends up being we cannot account for that loss for the following budget year, and so it actually will be a bigger budget gap for 2020,
And,
double the amount.
and my final question. Well, I got one more question, right? I just want to make sure we have all the facts. In a perfect world, we decided that we did not want to do an accelerated tax sale. How long would that process take, number one? And what would be the steps that we would take to lessen our dependence on a accelerated tax sale? Because I know that this is not the opportune situation. We would hope, we would wish that we did not have an accelerated tax sale. But now that we're here, what would be the pathway and the length of time that pathway would take to kind of wean us off of an accelerated tax sale?
So in order for the city to actually take the option of moving away from doing an accelerated tax sale, it's not something that can be done. We can put the brakes on at the end of this year and then say next year we cannot do an accelerated tax sale. We need to be able to identify additional money, additional tax revenues in order for us to be able to say, okay, it comes 2020, 2021, we're not going to meet this. But again, there has to be new sources of revenue to actually be able to support that loss of revenue that the city has been counting on for the last 14 years.
Okay. That's it. That's all my questions. My questions are done.
Okay, so my question is to you, Mr. Cruz, is this. I do understand the accelerated tax sale, and I do understand that it was factored into this budget year, and that we have somehow made this a common practice. But there was a couple of things that you said in explaining to Councilman Blakely. For example, you said that if the residents didn't pay their water bill or their taxes, that the city could move forward in the foreclosures of their homes, and that starts a process. The delinquent tax bill and the water bill. The two things that concern me most is this. We would move to foreclose on our regular, everyday residents and our businesses when they don't pay the water bill. But yet and still we have outstanding nonprofit organizations that owes this city in the tune of thousands of dollars, but we never moved to foreclose on any of those institutions, but we moved to foreclose 2 years, 3 years, or a year on a private home or private citizen or a resident of the city of Trenton. My thing is, we need to be vigilant and aggressive about getting our money from those nonprofits, because once we collect that money from those nonprofits, we have that as a cushion to be able to go back to the Board of Utilities or DCA or DEP and say, listen, you're only allowing us 5% or 5.5% of our profit revenue to be put toward our budget. We need to be able to up that percentage, to increase that percentage from our profit that we pull in from the water department, so that we can be able to add that to the budget. So therefore, we will be able to come up out of this accelerated tax, because as simple as it sounds, as though $50 is not a lot, but when you just did an assessment on a senior citizen and you're looking at 11-cent tax increase, those $50 add up. So my whole thing is, you said that if they don't pay their water bill, you are allowed to go and put a lien on their property. And I'm not going to ask you why it haven't been done, because you just got here. But there are so many private organizations and nonprofit organizations that have not paid up for Trenton. I want that to be one of the things that we do to increase our revenue, is to go get that money or put a lien on those nonprofits. Because if we're going to lean on the citizens, the same should go for the nonprofits. That was a statement and a question, and all of that wrapped up into one. Thank you. Councilman Santiago.
We just received copies of these foreclosures that are coming up. I saw that this is the people that owe 85,000, 100 some thousand, up to 200 something. That's besides the no profits. Those are properties that I know, because I know where they are. I know Trenton very well. They used to belong to city side apartments, to all these LLCs. Years ago, they stopped paying taxes on them, and somehow, if it is the tax lien probably for $60,000, nobody's going to buy that. Tax lien. I tell you, I know a little bit about real estate. Nobody's going to buy tax liens where they are not going to get a good profit. And yes, our senior citizens will have 8 quarters to pay my back taxes, but the problem is that I'm on a fixed income. And I know that the majority of our senior citizens don't get as much money monthly as I get. I have to be struggling sometimes to make ends meet. Imagine that person that went behind for 3 years on the taxes. How can that person afford to buy the lien back when you're going to add, 18% interest on it? I believe that's 18 or something like that. If you're going to buy your lien back from the lien holder. So it doesn't make sense. And also, do you find that it is responsible to add to the budget an amount of money, say 2.7 million or whatever it is, relying on accelerated tax lien sale, which is not, you just say the word, past practice. It's being done since 2004, so we have to continue doing it. But there is not a law, state code or state law that mandates that we have to have an accelerated tax lien sale. So just saying, it's something, it's a gimmick that the cities use to get money, to balance their money. You get money ahead of time. Sometimes you get money. Sometimes that is if you sell all those tax liens. My deal with this is that the city, if the tax lien is not sold that day, the city becomes the lien holder of that lien, right? Or wrong?
Yes, the city.
If nobody else buys, so the city. How many of these properties that are going to go for foreclosure, the hundreds of houses now vacant in the city, these owners, because they are still owners on them until we foreclose, right? How effective have been our effort to collect monies from those old tax liens? I understand, if I'm not mistaken, that the city have been holding tax liens since the 90s, and they have not foreclosed on those properties because it does not look good for the city to have this bunch of vacant properties under the city's name. Because I requested a list a couple of months ago, and it was one of the assistants sent me a list, and I saw that the city out of 3,000 properties, the city owns about 300. The others, well, they didn't bother to put in the name of the owner, they put vacant. That means, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm not stupid, that those properties, they own the city. All that money is from old tax liens. I am going to vote against this because we have to stop this thing of this accelerated tax. At one point we have to stop. If it's not now, we have to do it next year. So we might as well do it this year. And I found that it's very irresponsible to add that money to the budget when you didn't know if you were going to get that money or not, or how much you're going to get from the accelerated. You're making numbers there, but you don't know. You're not sure if you're going to get that money or not. You're not sure if you're going to sell all those liens or not. Thank you, Mr. Cruz.
I had the opportunity, along with some of my other colleagues, to sit through a very comprehensive class on municipal budgeting. And one of the topics came up, what's this accelerated tax sale? And across our great state of New Jersey, most municipalities don't indulge in this because we were told, and hopefully you can get some confirmation or some clarity, that this is not the optimal or the best strategy or approach to collecting taxes in arrears. Right? And actually, we just got a letter from our DCA representative that perhaps it would be prudent for us as the city of Trenton, this could be our last cycle of using this accelerated tax sale. I learned that in the class that the reason why other municipalities don't go this route is because it precludes them from capitalizing on a potential lucrative revenue stream that folks that are behind their taxes, like anything else, any delinquent account, the revenues that are produced are rather you're on your credit card, your car payment, or whatever, your mortgage. The advantage of that is that the creditor will charge the revenues will be generated by late fees that are generated that the city could charge, right? And also the interest. So I don't know, have the finance department or along you, Mr. Cruz, have calculated the advantages, the pros and cons of going with an accelerated tax sale versus going back on a normal cycle and just, capitalizing on the potential revenues generated from late fees and interest. Because that seems to be the way to go from what we're hearing from other, sources, ECA and other municipalities across the state. If we're losing this revenue, that could be significant, right?
Yes, the only thing is that when you talk about, holding on, and late fees are actually more of a burden to the homeowner. And so are the other fees. At the end of the day, when you're putting a budget together for a city that is straight out of money, you look at all the options, and you look at the history of DCA, transitional aid, and you base it on the previous year, and when you see that you are short millions of dollars, unfortunately, you try to look for options, and this is one of the options that that is actually one of the revenues that we can count on for that year. And so that is why municipalities that are in need of money and choose to do auxiliary tax sales.
But just for clarity, again, many of the municipalities, and I don't have the exact numbers, but I think it's worthwhile or it warrants further research and investigation by our finance department in your office, right? To understand how much potential revenues we're losing by going with the accelerated tax sale versus revenues that we can capitalize on through interest and late fees. Because it seems the one township that had quantifiable evidence said that his finance department, his tax department collects more on the interest and the late fees than they would if they had the accelerated tax. So I would just, of course, I don't want to be a bottleneck here, so I'm definitely, I'll support this, but this will be the last time I support it. I think that it's about time that you guys got to show some empirical evidence as to what other options our city has going forward. So historically, this is the way we've been doing it, and we shouldn't continue to do it just because we have been doing it, right? And we should continue to look for better ways to generate revenues. And if other municipalities are telling us that this accelerated tax sale is not an optimal way to generate revenues, and it's better to collect the interest than the fees, then we should listen at least, check it out and confirm this. So that's all.
Yeah. So one of the things that this administration is actually working on is trying to find new sources of revenue. We're going to be one of those is actually adding the kiosk and for parking spaces to most of the city. I mean, we're losing literally hundreds, if not maybe thousands of dollars a week for not having good equipment. It does show with other municipalities that have moved to the kiosk that you collect more money when the kiosks are available and you are allowed to use debit cards, credit cards. I'm actually a perfect example of that. When I go to another place where they have a kiosk, I'd rather go with the maximum and not end up with a ticket in my windshield. And I think people that I have talked to actually choose to go that same route. And so it is a source of revenue that we are actually not capitalizing on right now. But those are just one of the examples of what we call the low-hanging fruits. We're trying to find other sources of revenue, and hopefully soon in the near future we can come up with enough money so that we don't have to use these type of measures to capitalize on new sources of revenue or revenue.
So just in closing, I just want to say, and just to kind of reiterate what our council president has been articulating here this evening, is that We just need fair and equitable enforcement. Everybody should be held responsible for, for paying their bills to the city. So I know that when I'm late on my water bill, I'm telling you, if I'm 2 weeks late past the 30-day period, I get a pink slip that says, Ms. Vaughn, if you don't pay by X date, you will be shut off. Shut off. And not only will it be shut off, if it gets shut off, to get it shut back on, you're going to charge me, I think, almost $100. So, I don't understand why, I'm forced to be accountable. And I hear that half of my neighbors, businesses, and other folks, nonprofit or otherwise, who uses the same services I use, are not held accountable in the same way. So I think, Mr. Administrator, you should huddle with all the departments that have services that that citizens are responsible to pay or to pay into. Make sure that these the procedures are being enforced and people are following the rules. That's all.
I cannot speak for the previous administrations, but I can tell you that if you have the list of names, it's because they made it onto our radar. And, we are going to be looking at the list very diligently to make sure that everybody pays their fair share.
No, I just don't understand how you shut my water off like clockwork, and others' water stays on for years and years, to the point where their bill runs up to $70,000, $100,000. I want that same liberty. You know what I mean? I want that same benefit. How come you apply the rules to others, some and not others? That's a problem. So I think that, again, the administration really needs to talk to the department heads and start enforcing the rules equitably across our city. Nothing further.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz, I appreciate it. Mr. Harris, you want to take the move to the vote?
Resolution 19-51 was moved by Mr. Blakely, seconded by Councilwoman Caldwell-Wilson. Are you ready for the vote?
Yes, we are.
Mr. Blakely?
Yes.
Ms. Caldwell-Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Harrison? Mr. Rodriguez?
No.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes.
Ms. McBride?
Yes.
Resolution 19-51 has been approved. Next on the agenda is our next on the docket is Resolution 19-93, which is a resolution authorizing or awarding a contract for a fair and open process to Goldenberg, Mackler, Sage, Yates, Pfeiffer, Bonshi, and Gill attorneys at law to conduct in-rem foreclosure services on behalf of the City of Trenton Department of Housing and Economic Development in an amount not to exceed $400,000 for legal fees and reimbursed expenses not to exceed $600,000. Is there a motion? Are you ready for the vote?
Yes, we are.
Mr. Blakely?
Yes.
Ms. Caldwell-Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Harrison?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes.
Ms. McBride?
Yes.
Resolution 19-93 is approved.
Mr. Harris, Mr. Bonchi from the firm in question is here. He's very knowledgeable about in-rem foreclosures and tax services in general. He might be a good source of information for you folks that we address you briefly.
No. Okay.
Resolution 19-95 is a resolution authorizing payment for a contract with Ted Dolce, which was awarded on an emergency basis for water main repairs at 24 Evans Avenue and 96 Pine Street in Lawrence Township in the amount of, or not to exceed $27,139.50. Is there a motion? Ready for the vote?
Yes, we are.
Mr. Blakely?
Yes. Yes.
Ms. Colwell Wilson. Mr. Harrison. Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Bowman.
Yes.
Ms. McBride. Yes. Resolution 19-95 has been approved. Next is Resolution 19-96, which is a resolution authorizing payment for a contract with Ted Dolce, which was awarded on an emergency basis for water service repair at 200 Pennington Avenue in Trenton, in an amount not to exceed $32,020. Is there a motion? You ready for the vote? Yes, Mr. Blakely.
Yes.
Ms. Caldwell Wilson.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison. Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn.
Yes.
Ms. McBride.
Yes.
Resolution 19-96 has been approved. Next is Resolution 19-99, authorizing payment for a contract with Camira Water Solutions Incorporated, which was awarded on an emergency basis for delivery of ferric chloride for the City of Trenton Department of Water and Sewer, the water filtration plant in an amount not to exceed $102,736.40. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Are you ready for the vote?
Yes, we are.
Mr. Blakely?
Yes.
Ms. Caldwell Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Harrison?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
No.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes.
Ms. McBride?
Yes.
Resolution 19-99 has been approved. Resolution 19-104 is a resolution authorizing emergency appropriation to the state fiscal year 2019 temporary budget of the City of Trenton current fund in the amount of $125,000. Is there a motion?
So moved.
You ready for the vote?
Yes, we are.
Mr. Blakely?
Yes.
Ms. Caldwell Wilson? Mr. Harrison? Mr. Rodriguez?
No.
Ms. Vaughn?
No.
Ms. McBride?
Yes.
Resolution 19-104 has failed. Resolution 19-107 is a resolution authorizing the City of Trenton Department of Health and Human Services to enter into a shared service agreement with the Henry J. Austin Health Service Center for the provision of comprehensive health care services to the underinsured and uninsured residents of the city. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Ready for the vote?
Yes, we are.
Mr. Blakely?
Yes.
Ms. Caldwell Wilson? Mr. Harrison? Mr. Rodriguez?
No.
Ms. Vaughn?
No.
Ms. McBride?
Yes.
Resolution 19-107 has failed.
President Wright. Thank you, President Wright. Can I have someone from the Health and Human Services Department come up? I was going to record. Could you tell me the implication of our failure to vote on that, to vote positively on that, for the record?
So we have been operating under the assumption that we have a contract with them. They believe it, we believe it. They've been providing the services, they have incurred the costs. Our failure to get this resolution passed means that we will not be able to pay a bill that we have incurred.
So explain that. What kind of bills are we incurring?
We have an agreement with Henry J. Austin to provide STD HIV testing for anyone in the city who needs it. And we also have an agreement with them to provide immunizations for the kids in our schools. The immunizations piece is, they're all important. But the immunizations piece is important because if the kids are not immunized, they cannot go to school. They cannot be in school.
So let me break this. I want to make this clear about the implications, and I would seriously hope that my colleagues who voted in opposition to this would reconsider their motion. I want to ask this question because this is important, because this is like, can you tell me the STD rate in the city of Trenton, the HIV rate in the city of Trenton?
I actually don't have those figures with me, but I can get them for you.
Yeah, so from what I understand, there used to be a billboard outside of City Hall that stated that I believe the numbers were 1 out of 27 Trentonians had HIV. Had HIV, from what I understand. This was maybe 5-10 years ago. Can you tell me the implications of the folks who can't afford to get STD testing? They will not be able to go to Henry J. Austin.
Well, with the STD testing, especially STD and HIV testing, especially for the undocumented community, there's no other place for them to get the testing, and they can't get treatment if they're not tested. There's no place, because what happens is, if you go to the hospitals, you have to show some documentation, some identification. People who are undocumented, who don't have that, they have no place to go. And so if they continue to engage in sexual activity, then the chances are that the diseases will spread.
And so,
Absolutely. Excuse me, Shakira. I'm going to move to ask the clerk if we could recall this vote. Councilwoman Wong has decided that her point is very well taken about being forced to vote on things that come to us on the 10th hour instead of coming to us like they should. She do not want to block children from getting immunization, and the STD piece is very critical to her, but she cannot be forced, as none of us want to be forced to vote on resolutions that should have been presented to us in a timely manner. So for the future, we discussed this on Tuesday, and I told you that when we do things like this, it risks its problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask the clerk if we can rescind our vote and take this vote again.
President Bride, if I can, I appreciate the graciousness of yourself and President and Councilwoman Vaughn in reconsidering her vote. I think this is, thank you, I really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Mr. Santiago.
The reason I voted no to this was because Ms. Ali explained Tuesday, this was discussed Tuesday, that this was supposed to first go through DCA and then to us. By approving this, we are doing the opposite. Either what we should consider is rewriting the resolution, not to give the money or not give the money, but to rewrite it to please DCA so that it will go to DCA and then come back to us, because that should be the process. Otherwise, we are not, I don't know, I cannot vote in favor of something that we are violating the process, that in my way,
Could you speak to that?
Councilman Santiago, you are absolutely right. This is not in keeping with the process that we are supposed to follow. And having had a conversation with our contact at DCA, we went through a lengthy conversation about how we really will need to go back out to bid for this in the coming year. And she was appreciative of the fact that we are in the middle of the fiscal year and Henry J. Austin has been providing the services. So she is going to allow us to continue with this process in order to get it correct.
My saying is that if that's the case, we should have had a memo from the CA attached to the resolution, and that would have clarified everything.
Absolutely, and the fact is, I spoke to her today, she did attach a memo, on an email, and I assumed it was going to be attached to this resolution this evening. I'll get it to you tomorrow.
There is a note attached to the resolution from the DCA. And exactly what the director said, they acknowledged that the process was not followed, but asked the council to consider this resolution because of the severity of it.
Could you hand that to council? Can we get that to?
If we go back to the last meeting one, I have that one. That's why I asked the question because of this. But that's not a valid statement to me. That's not, it is. Let's put it in on us. They should have done better than that. That's not even professional the way they were treating us.
And so, in keeping with the rules and regulations of the MOU, and in keeping with the normal practices, as I shared with the director, Shakira, we just have to do better. And this is what Councilwoman Vaughn is saying, this is what we're all saying. If you want us to vote, you have to give us the proper information in a timely manner, and things have to go through the process as they should with every other resolution. So we can't, and my colleague here, Mr. Santiago, is saying to you that for DCA to give us a handwritten note is very unprofessional, which it is, and although it is attached to the actual resolution, it should have been typed out, signed by either Tina or Melody from DCA. Things just have to be done proper, and it's just as simple as that.
So, Madam President, to your point and to the councilman's point, with regards to the statement that was written on this page, Tina was actually going on vacation, and she's been on vacation. She came back from vacation actually today. So because she was leaving, she said, I'm going to write this, but if they need something more formal to the record, I will put it in an email format. And so this was actually just to put it so that it can make it to the docket, and so that it can be considered for a vote.
All right, thank you. So we're going to move forward with asking Mr. Harris to rescind the process to rescind the first vote.
So Council President McBride is making a motion to reconsider the vote for Resolution 19-107. Is there a second? Mr. Blakely, moved and seconded by Mr. Blakely. Are you ready for the vote?
Yes, we are.
Mr. Blakely?
Yes.
Ms. Caldwell-Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Harrison?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes.
Ms. McBride?
Yes.
And that motion has passed. So the vote now is the passage of Resolution 19-107, which is authorizing the City of Trenton Department of Health and Human Services to enter into a shared service agreement with Henry J. Austin Health Center for the provision of comprehensive health care services for the underinsured and uninsured residents of the city. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Ready for the vote?
Yes, we are.
Mr. Blakely?
Yes.
Ms. Caldwell-Wilson?
Due to the fact that I'm a board member, Henry J. Austin, I have to abstain.
Mr. Harrison?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes.
Ms. McBride?
Yes.
Resolution 19-107 has been approved.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Council members.
That is all the formal business that is on the agenda. Next is our public comments. When your name is called, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. The council president requests that you keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. First is Olga Romero.
Good evening to everybody who's here. I'm here representing my parents that live at 79 House Place in Trenton. They've been living here for 62 years. I just recently retired from the Department of Corrections to take care of my parents who both ill. Last year I came to complain about a property that was just recently burned. It's on the entrance of Hills Place and Vernon Street. That house has been burned for a few months. It's a danger, it's unsafe. When I travel to my parents' house, now I'm staying there because they're afraid it's very unsafe. When I travel there, I have to try to squeeze my car to avoid all the bags that were dumped there by a company who was working on the properties that were just purchased there. 401, 403 Center, and Federal. I took pictures for you. I'll leave them. The owner of that property, they just purchased the property, paid a group of people. While they're fixing it, they're dumping all the stuff. And it's right in plain view of where my parents live. I hate to travel here each time because of the sight of having to drive by furniture in the middle of the road and all the contractor bags of all the stuff that was removed from that property and the house that is almost about to come down. My parents are taxpayers. We don't deserve to live like this. I'm pretty sure when you get a good view of the pictures that I'm going to leave that has the addresses in the back, I'm pretty sure if you were to look at that, you wouldn't want to live in that environment yourself. My mother's being treated by Robert Wood Johnson nurses, and they're even afraid to come into my mom's neighborhood, 79 Hills Place. We've been very patient, and I think it's out of hand. We need help. So if it were you, and you lived in this neighborhood, and you have to drive by it or walk every day to where your parents are living, how would you deal with this situation? And that would be my question to you, because I can't do it on my own. I need you to help me. I'm class of 81, Trenton, Ohio. I was raised in Trenton, New Jersey, and it hurts me to see how the city has been plagued by all this trash. It's just really sad, and I think we need to do better, and I need your help. Thank you. That's it.
Ms. Ramona Thomas.
Good evening. My name is Ramona Thomas. I live 951 Edward Avenue, and I'm the person who's asking to go to 286. Tonight, I see on the agenda extension of the interim police director. However, the city of Trenton deserves a police director who the community supports. The residents want a police director that reflects our community. We also need an experienced individual who will understand our cultural values and respect the citizens of Trenton. We stand in support of our brother John Day. Thank you.
This is just for the public. This body does not have anything to do with any directors until the process from the mayor's office is complete. If you have a problem or you want to suggest anything in reference to any director, that is the mayor's privilege. It is not this body's privilege. The only thing this body does is we do an advice and consent once we get an applicant from the city of Trenton administration, which is the mayor. So if anyone here wants to recommend or discuss, they need to visit the mayor's office to discuss whatever candidate they want to put forth or whatever candidate they wish to talk about. But this is not the venue for that discussion. That discussion can only come to the body under advice and consent. Any other discussions, they need to take place with the mayor. The mayor is the only person that can bring a candidate up in front of this body for advice and consent.
Ronald McMullen. Ronald McMullen.
President Bride.
Good evening, City Council. Again, I'm Ronald McMullen, for those who don't know, President of Ashby, New Jersey, Council 63, we represent 29,000 members in the state of New Jersey. We represent probably about 2,500 to 3,000 members here in City Council. I just had 2 points that I want to discuss. On January 30th, there was a job fair held here in the city atrium. And ASME, our union here, thanks to President Ramona Thompson, we had between 350 to about 500 applicants. And those applicants, I believe 99% of them were city residents. And the reason why we held the job fair was because the Trenton Waterworks has vacancies that needs to be filled. And our position as the representative for most of those workers is that those positions need to be filled by city residents first. Now, ASME is a pretty strong union. We got friends in DEP. And what they're telling me is that the Trenton Waterworks, there's 52 positions that's vacant presently. And we had this job fair January 30th. This is over 30 days. There was a deadline by DCA or DEP for those jobs to be filled by February 5th. Now, we had that job fair January 30th, and those jobs have not been filled. Now, DEP, CSC, which is the Civil Service Commission, and DCA stated that they're not the ones holding back the city from hiring the city residents to those jobs. The holdback from those jobs is right here in the city hall. So we need to see who's over the Trenton Waterworks, who's the human resource director, who's the business administrator, because the city hall is holding city residents who are qualified, because about 60-70% of those people who put in for applicants are qualified applicants. We don't have qualified applicants in the city of Trenton. But I beg to differ. We got over 300 applicants who are extremely qualified for those positions. But yet, nobody is hiring these people. So I'm asking City Council to please either investigate or ask questions to the proper authorities as to why these positions are not filled. 52 positions. Whenever you create economics in the city, and you give it to the city residents, then you make your city better. And that is the purpose of asking why we had that job fair and those 52 positions needed to be filled. I think DEP said that is 28% of the 189 workers they had is not filled. You got over a quarter of the waterwork job vacancies that are not filled, and you have the responsibility to make sure it's filled. And we, as the city residents, want to make sure it's filled. Okay, I'm addressing the body, but I'm also speaking to you.
But speak to me, please.
I'm addressing the body, and I'll speak to you, Ms. Kathy McBride. How you doing that? Now, my other point, and I beg to differ, and it's with all due respect, Council President, Ms. McBride, but there is a vacancy that needs to be filled as well. The city of Trenton has been plagued with crime for years. There are business people who want to come to the city of Trenton, but they don't come to the city of Trenton because of the crime that's in the city of Trenton. There are people who want to buy property in the city of Trenton that are afraid to buy property in the city of Trenton because of the crime in the city of Trenton. I myself, I own property in the city of Trenton, but since I grew up in the city of Trenton, I have overcame my fear and bought property in the city of Trenton. But in order to make the city of Trenton safe, we need a police director.
Address that to the community.
Okay, but listen, like I said, I beg to differ, because
We're not gonna have
Okay,
that
okay,
discussion with you, because that's not.
okay, but this is not a discussion. I have my time to speak, so I believe I need to be allowed my time to speak. Do people in the room agree?
So if you cannot conform with what I'm stating, your time will be cut off. The city of Trenton, the residents here, I appreciate their concern, but that is not what we do.
But my point is, we all know the process. The process is that the mayor is supposed to make an appointment to this body. And this body is supposed to either affirm or not affirm that appointment of that position, which is the director's position. So the reason why this body needs to know that the residents
To me, Mr.
The body needs to know that the city residents support a particular candidate who is from the city of Trenton. We do not want a candidate that is outside of the city of Trenton to come in here and police and direct this city, because when you got outside police people or directors, they do not have the interests of the city residents like the ones who grew up here, who went to school here, who know the residents here, who respect the residents here, and those are the people that we want to direct this city. The young lady prior to me mentioned John Day. John Day has been a state trooper for over 25 years. He has served on different units, crime units, special investigation units, from Camden all the way to Newark. The man has a bachelor's degree. The man has in criminal justice. The man is well experienced, and the city residents are letting the city council know that that is who we support. And the reason why I say from the city,
We're going to cut your time based on the fact that I've already laid out. If you want to pitch for any director, your pitch needs to go down the hall to the mayor. You do not need to submit a resume to this body, because this body cannot do anything with the resume that you submit.
Okay,
it has to be submitted down the hall.
Yes, ma'am. In my closing, the council people in West Ward, East Ward, South Ward, and North Ward, when we voted for you because you was from the North Ward, you was from the South Ward, you was from the West Ward, you was from the East Ward, because you had the interest of the people in that particular ward. That's why when we voted for somebody else in the North Ward to be council person in the North Ward that wasn't from the North Ward, that would be a problem. If we voted for somebody in the West Ward to be council person and wasn't from the West Ward, that would also be a problem. Just like if we hire a Trenton police director that is not from the city of Trenton, that will be a problem.
Thank you.
And my final thing, this is talk.
Mr. Harris,
Elected officials,
your 3 minutes is up.
elected officials are supposed to run the people that put them in office
Your
to
time
have
is
their
up.
own personal agendas.
Mr. Harris,
And we gotta stop this foolishness of elected officials not having the people first instead of their own personal use. So if you don't listen to the people, you gotta remember, election day will come. And there will be a mass effort if you do not support the people that put you in office to put you out of office.
Mr. McMullen.
Make sure that you represent of the city of Trenton. Thank you.
You need to listen. Let me tell you something. You need to leave. Right now. You need to leave right here and right now. You don't vote in Trenton. You vote in Buick. You need to leave now. You need to leave. You need to leave. You pay taxes, but you don't live. You live in Buick. Go voice your concerns and do it.
You ain't gonna put me out.
No, but there's somebody here that will.
I don't commit crimes. I'm allowed to be here. How you gonna put me out? Please, President, help me. You are too big-headed, Mr. Ronnie. You need to stop.
He needs to go right now. I'm not going to tolerate. He's not going to come into this house and disrupt it. He needs to go. I've already made my point. My point is very clear. This body does not review or take any applications for any directors in this city. That job is the mayor's job. It's not the city council's job. If you do not know the city council's duties that we are responsible for, I have a pamphlet here for you. Do not come in here being disruptive, bringing the city council the mayor's business. That's not our job. Our job is not to ask for applications. Our job is not to review the applications. That is a process that belongs to the mayor and the mayor alone. When the mayor calls us into the fold, he has already made his decision, and then we get the applications once the mayor has made his decision. But all of this disrespect for this body will not be tolerated from Mr. McMullen or no one else. He will not be invited back into these chambers. He does not have the right to come in here and disrupt this body under any circumstances, and I won't put up with it from any of you. This is the place where we do city business. We do the business of the city. We do not do the mayor's business. Mr. Harris, move to the next person.
Marlena Ventura.
My name is Marlena Ventura, 1414 Chambers Street. I am the second vice president for the Trenton Education Association. I am a 7-year kindergarten teacher at Columbus Elementary School and a 17-year veteran of teaching in Trenton. The students of Trenton are my babies. They are my family, and the teachers are my family as well. And I'm here to advocate for them because I'm very concerned about what's going on with the Board of Ed and Superintendent. In September, I started teaching this year. This is my 17 years without a contract. Previous administration and the Board of Ed usually have our contracts settled. They start previous January, and somewhere, usually by the end of the summer, they settle. This board refused to even meet with our negotiations team until September. They have not been respectful in the things they have asked in their little nervous tonight. They're not been, what I'd like to say, respectful, kind, and courteous in their proposal to us. It has been utterly disrespectful, and they're not doing that to the other units. They're deliberately targeting our unit because we are the largest unit, and they want to break us. But we are not like that. We are strong. I started the year with 25 kids in my kindergarten classroom. It went down to 23. It's probably going to be back up to 24 tomorrow. The limits in my classroom are supposed to be 21 because I teach kindergarten. I am not alone. These number sizes are huge across the district, which makes it very, very, very hard for us to give the kids the education they deserve. Besides overcrowdedness, we got the supplies that we need on a regular basis. They switched out our math program, and we didn't have the supplies that we heard earlier in the year about some of those resource issues. And there's constant changes. One of the biggest constant changes when they switched contracted services for our security guards. And we were out without security guards for about a week, which was not only disrespectful, just dangerous to our students on all accounts because we didn't have anybody in, and the city had to supply police officers to patrol to make sure that there was security in the buildings. I have to say the biggest thing that really gets me riled up is the fact that they waste taxpayer money, and that is your jurisdiction. As a unit, we grieve wrongs to our contract, and they go to binding arbitration, where it is settled and done, and the district has lost. Well, the district doesn't like the response, they go to the appellate court. and they're working their way all the way up to the Supreme Court, and they're losing on every level. They have the ability to pay $50,000 at the Supreme level court to try and have this heard, but they could have solved it at $2,000 when we were at binding arbitration. The district also can seem to find money to pay for a merit pay for $24,000 per superintendent. And what makes me really upset about that is if I had the same reviews on my observation, I would be considered a basic teacher, put on a corrective action plan, and if I didn't improve my teaching ability, I would have been let go by the end of the second year. The goals on his cap, or on his action plan for him that he was being evaluated on, he barely met half of them. And one of the goals was a goal that we had started prior to him even coming into the district. So anything about him using things like kids writing, we did well before he got here. So in conclusion, I would really like to invite you to the board meeting on March 25th and to speak and hold the board accountable for their actions, for their spending, for how they treat teachers, and for how they are being disrespectful and not giving the students what they truly need in regards to education. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Blakely will be just talking to you in civic comment. Mr. Blakely, Councilman Blakely will be talking to you during civic comment.
Catherine Walden. Catherine Walden.
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity to address the council. I too am a teacher in the Trenton School District. My name is Catherine Holden. I teach at Grace State Middle School on Davis Street. I'm also an active member of the Teachers Union and Education Association. I too have serious concerns about the current state of the school district. Not only its leadership inside the district office, but our school board and the direction that they're taking. As a previous speaker explained to you, we have been working without a contract since August 31st, and for about a year, our district and our board leadership have put obstacles in the way of proper negotiations. So that's where we are. Our teachers deserve better, but not only that, the residents of the city and the students deserve better. You've heard us speak previously to this body and in the mayor's presence about the state of affairs in schools. Many are in disrepair. We still have a significant number of teacher vacancies, jobs that should have been filled in September or the previous year. That continues to this day, to our disappointment, and to the disappointment of taxpayers and residents in this city. I believe I'm fairly accurate when I say that we contribute, or the city contributes, I don't want to speak improperly about her purview, over $20 million to this district. Well, I urge you to take a close look, scrutinize what is going on with this school district and the use of that revenue and also the state's revenue. I'm sorry to say that you will probably be alarmed and disappointed. I heard you all say how important it was for you to have confidence and feel, I think you mostly said, an assurance that anyone appointed to a critical leadership position in this city have the best interest of Trenton and its residents at heart. That's how we feel about our school district, and I hope you feel the same way. Take a close look. You may not be able to say that our leadership in the city schools has the best interest of our students at heart. We're here to defend the need for a settled contract, but not only that, the future of the school district, and we should all be concerned about that. The future of the city depends on the education of our children. And you cannot run a school district with a future that looks bright the way it's being run now. Vote of no confidence for a superintendent. Vote of no confidence in a board president. Disrespect for, and I have to say, I go to a lot of board meetings, almost every one. Disrespect in general for the public, for parents that walk into that room. Disrespect for other community members who have valid critical concerns about the future of the schools and their current state. So I urge you, we're all in this together. I know you don't have any control over the school district, technically. But we do have an appointed school board. And we all have a responsibility to make sure that the people on that board have the best interest of our schools at heart. I don't think you can honestly say that when they delay negotiations on a contract unnecessarily, withhold information, discourage and sometimes prohibit people from speaking publicly about real concerns day to day in the future in our schools. Take a closer look. We spoke in front of this body in the fall, maybe September, October. I'm sure you remember us. It hasn't gotten better. It's gotten much worse. Please, we need your help in any way you can. The children need your help. We don't want to keep going this direction. And take a close look at what this administration and this board is proposing to us teachers and to the residents and the parents, the community, you'd be appalled. Do we need to take middle schools and take them back to K-8 or K-6? What research supports that? What's the reason for that? If I were you, I'd want to know. $11.5 million almost in additional state aid. How are we going to spend it? What's most important? You might want to have something to say about that. So these are big issues. I have lots of little issues and big issues in my classroom, which I could mention, but they're all affected. And teachers like me in all of our schools are affected by the big decisions that are made at 108 North Clinton Avenue. And you need to know about those. Thank you.
Janice Williams, 8B Still Street. Vivian, I want to applaud my colleagues who spoke very eloquently about the issues taking place in the Trenton school system. And in reference to contract negotiations, there's no reason why this issue cannot settle a contract with the teachers. Governor Murphy gave us an additional $11 million towards the city of Trenton. We received over $6 million from the closed international charter school. Right now, with Chapter 780, the district employees are paying over $8 million towards the Trenton public school system. So we don't want to hear that they can't settle a contract because the money is there. Perhaps if they lay off top-heavy central leadership, they would be able to find money to pay teachers, to fill vacancies, to take care of special ed needs, our most vulnerable population here in the city of Trenton. But that's not why I'm here this evening. I'm here because you represent constituents who send their most precious jewels to our school. But they're sending their students, their children, to Trenton Public Schools to a superintendent who does not think that our high school students are intelligent enough to take honors classes. Let me repeat that. We have a CEO of the Trenton Public Schools, Dr. Fred McDowell, who believes that our high school students aren't intelligent enough to take honor classes. He put forth a program to eliminate 11th grade and 10th grade honors classes. A man who got let go in Denver. A man who was sitting on the couch in Philadelphia. These are the kind of people that we hire to watch over our children here in the city of Trenton. But let me tell you one thing. Those of you who know me, my advocacy work has always been about children. I've taught high school for many, many years at Trenton Central High School. When you lie to my children, I have a problem with you, and I'm going to see that I run you out of here because you're not going to lie to my children. The high school students came before the superintendent at the HESMA board meeting and asked if it was in fact true that he planned to eliminate honors classes. He said, no, I didn't say that. I would never say that. In fact, I'm putting forth something that will expand the number of offerings of honors classes. Lo and behold, President Hope Grant, President of the Administrators Union, CASA, came before the body and presented evidence where in fact he held a meeting with principals and his central leadership team and announced that he was doing away with honors. He directed his assistant superintendent to send out a communication to verify that this honors class would be eliminated, that honors class would be eliminated, that honors class would be eliminated. He also received a letter from CASA's attorney communicating the egregious act in which he has committed. A CEO telling me that my children are not intelligent enough to take honors classes, that they don't want my children at Ivy League schools, that they don't recognize those honors classes on the transcripts of my children. The superintendent talking about our children like that. How dare he? How dare he be allowed to even remain in that seat representing the city of Trenton, downplaying the intelligence of my black and brown children? This man should have been immediately put on leave. It should have been investigated. But the most egregious act is when he lied to the kids, then Holbert had to come up after the kids were told a lie and say, wait a minute, Superintendent McDowell, here's the evidence. You said it. Your central leadership team know you said it. The principals who were in the meeting know you said it. And you sat right there and lied to my young people and said you didn't say it. And then had the nerve to want to meet with my young people, but they were smart enough because they know how to advocate for themselves, because that's what we teach them to do, because it's found by children. That's what you have to know how to do if you're going to compete in this world today. And they refused to meet with him because he did what? He lied to them. But you know what's so amazing? This man that we paid 6 figures to, this man that we gave a $24,000 yearly pay, he's upholding the lie to this day. I didn't say it. And now I understand he's going around telling that he is the most second powerful person here in the city of Trenton. Really? I don't know if any of you have ever heard that yet. But someone called me yesterday and said, you know, Fred McDowell thinks he's the most second powerful person here in the city of Trenton. I said, really? But I wanted you to know, because you represent constituents who send children to us, that we have a current superintendent that doesn't think our students can compete with other students, and they're too stupid, not intelligent enough to take honors classes. And I know that Councilman Blakely will be communicating that to you because he sat there at the same meeting, heard the superintendent lie to the kids, and then heard Principal Graham present facts and evidence to the contrary. So I'm asking that you please take the opportunity to listen and investigate. Investigate with the mayor and investigate with the board. But what's so ironic is one of the board members, Addie Daniels Lane, asked the superintendent, was this in fact true? And she wanted a response to that. And he said to her, I didn't say that. So not only does he lie to the children, he's lying to board members also. And he's at the point now where he's not even believing his own lies. So I'm going to ask you, how are the children? How are the children? The children in the city of Trenton are not well. How are the children? The children are not well. We need to help the children become well again here in the city of Trenton.
First of all, I'd like to say, I plead the fifth. Because I like to say that everything the teacher said is true. I also speak at their board. And once again, I'd like to speak about some of the council members feel those that the sanitation department in the city of Trenton getting too much overtime. Well, just like Aspen said over there, just like Warner said, our president, and I'm vice president over 226. If the city of Trenton fulfilled a lot of these jobs, there wouldn't be no overtime. See, sometimes we got to look at the head, because the head got a problem. But yet, y'all willing to kill 40 men just to kill the overtime for money. Money is nothing. Respect is something. Your health is everything. This is what I'm saying. You willing to kill a few men just to kill the overtime. You can never kill the overtime. What you got to do is increase your budget. You asked us to catch bed bugs. You asked us to smell mice. You asked us to pick up poop. You asked us to pick up mattresses that don't even got a cover. Y'all hold no responsibility to the cover. But yet, y'all actually do it. But yet, y'all want to kill overtime. I don't mind that. Y'all increase 10 more streets to 1, maybe 2 men, maybe 1 man. When he get hurt, we're down. We already got 3 men down there. And injuries going to grow. It's not the fault of why we're getting overtime because we don't own nothing. If we own the transfer station over there, maybe we can control a lot of things. But we don't own that. The transfer station over there controls how much garbage come through there and how much garbage go out of there. Sometimes we sit on the dump for maybe 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours, just to dump. The line is 16 trucks long because everybody dumped there. I'm asking y'all, I've never heard of undercover balls. Undercover balls was created so he gets out of the seat and he rides with the men. And let me see what they're doing. So I'm asking every last one of you that says that we just accumulate all this over. To take a ride, put on your boots, come behind the tank, and see what we have to pick up. See how people talk to us. But nobody wants to do that. Everybody wants to sit behind the desk and give orders. You know, it's easy to give an order until you get behind the tank. There's one thing I gotta respect about Doug Palmer when he was in office. Doug Palmer did this. He said, before I touch the sanitation workers, I'm gonna get behind that tank and I'm gonna see what they doing. When he got behind that tank and he seen all the poop that's splashing up, the junk that people throw out on us, and he came in the yard, he had a different look and a different outlook on what about sanitation. And I'm asking every last one of you that sit behind the desk, put your boots on, get your dirty jeans, and we're gonna throw E-Route. E-Route is one of the nastiest routes you ever want to see. J-Route, C-Route. To each household in the city of Trenton is overpopulated. You're getting 6 to 7, 8 bags, big bags. But yet you tell a man that throw extra 30 more streets, that when he want to rest, he can't rest. That ain't the most insane thing I never heard in my life. But yet you tell us that you love us. If y'all love us, then I need a hold in my hand. I really need a hold in my hand. Because the only thing y'all worry about, I'm not talking about the ones that just got in office. I'm not talking about y'all. I'm not talking about y'all. I'm talking about the ones that's already in office. That's what I'm talking about. Because y'all really don't know that. But I'm asking y'all to come down to the sanitation department. If you don't do no facility in the truck, you'll throw up. Or if you open up that garage, you're gonna throw up. Or in the summertime, you see little bricks on the ground as magnets, rolling all over everywhere, you're gonna throw up. Even Martin Luther King knew how hard the sanitation workers were. But yet, the city of Trenton really respects us enough. We try to hold y'all up, just like the police department. But yet, we always under attack, just like the fire department. Always under attack. We're going to cut you here, we're going to cut you there, we're going to cut the police, we're going to cut the fire department, we're going to cut sanitation. If y'all stop giving so much money out, you wouldn't have to get cut. Look at the money you spend. Cut some of them 6-figure jobs and give it to the people, especially the police officers, that go out there and risk their life each and every day and got to go home to their families, can't spend time with their child. The fire department, the sanitation department. These are the people, man, that hold the city of Trenton up. But yet, we the most disrespected. We spit on us. Y'all stop us and your access to please help us. And when we help you, the residents don't even respect us. They don't even respect us. And yet, everybody want to shut you down when you talk the truth. That's what the law says. Because when you speak the truth, God said, yeah, they want to cut you short. You see? And that's real, man. I went to the chief of staff. You know what he said? I'm going to come down to the sanitation. I asked Wally, get out your suit. Put your boots on. Put your gloves on. He knows what we can go through. But do we sit up in the seat and tell him? No. He knows what we go through. Wally came from the ground up. He knows. The director knows what we go through. And I said to the director, be undercover boss. Let's get behind the table and go E-Route. He said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Yeah, but it's quick to get an order. It's quick to give an order that when a man gets done with his route, throwing an extra 40 streets, you want to help a man that don't care about going home. You want him to throw his route too. You want him to make his check too. Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you this much, I ain't making nobody else check. Just as well as I get up in the morning, report to work at 6:45, and clean all the nasty, stinking dumpsters that people throw in everything in there, and pick up whatever you go through the toilet, I fix it up, and I gotta clean it out, and you tell me to go help somebody else. Come on now, come on. That's insane. Because you wouldn't want to do it. Don't do nothing that you wouldn't want me to do, that you wouldn't do. My mama always said, if you can give the medicine, you can take it. And she meant that. And I'm asking y'all for this. Listen, all y'all right here now, elected, I need y'all to come to sanitation. And y'all got to see it for yourself. And then you will understand why. Why it's overtime like this. Maybe you can talk to the Senate, maybe you can talk to the transfer station. But you know what waste management gonna tell you? It's not our problem. It's Teletown's problem. And hire more people.
Is there a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second. Mr. Blakey?
Yes.
Coco Wilson? Yes. Mr. Harrison? Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes.
Ms. Bride? Next on the agenda is city comments.
Thank you, President McBride. I'll keep my comments short tonight. First, I would like to talk about the issues in the Board of Education. As the board liaison to the Board of Education, I have been in communication with the mayor's office and chief of staff, Nellie, to discuss issues around this teacher's contract, as well as a general sense of dissatisfaction with the Board of Education, as well as with the superintendent. I am in communications to update them on what's going on, but I would implore the superintendent to settle this teacher contract now. As a former educator, I am aware of the difficulties of teaching and being an educator in general, but also specifically in Trenton, and I believe that they deserve a fair contract. And I hope that the Board of Education and the superintendent and the teachers union come to an agreement so that they can, work together collaboratively to move the school district further. Additionally, I would like to also add that I encourage the superintendent, not the superintendent, I encourage the mayor to make his appointments to the school board immediately so that he can make his mark on a school board that is desperately in need of transformation. So I also would hope that some of the board members who don't see themselves as being, their vision of the school system being congruent with the mayor's school system, to allow the mayor an opportunity to make his impact by resigning. So if there are any board members that are on the edge of thinking about resigning, I implore you to take that so that the mayor has an opportunity to make his impact on the Board of Education. As many folks know, City Council does not have any formal role. Myself and Councilman Rodriguez are on the school Board of Estimates, but I would really hope that the mayor is given the ability to make an impact on the school board. The only way you can do that is by making appointments to the school board. And finally, I want to reiterate my community board meetings that are occurring next Wednesday. My first board meeting is going to be in the West Ward at the Hermitage Avenue Police Ready Station. All of my colleagues are invited to attend. I will have these meetings on a monthly basis to deal with constituent concerns, provide updates, as well as inform residents about what's going on in City Hall. So I'm having my first meeting on the 13th from 6:30 to 7:30 in the West Ward. Then I'm having my East Ward meeting a week after on March 20th from 6:30 to 7:30 at the Greenwood Avenue Police Mini Station. And then in April, I'm going to have my North Ward community meeting. And in May, I'm going to have my South Ward community meeting. Then I'll be starting West, East, North, and South in the months that follow. As I mentioned previously, all of my colleagues are invited. All the public is invited. There will be refreshments, and I really look forward to those meetings so that I can help residents address some of their concerns. And finally, the police director appointment is, I guess the process is in process. And so I would really hope that people who have concerns about particular candidates, that they direct those concerns to Mayor Vasiora. As Council President McBride mentioned, we as a body have no influence on the selection until the appointment is made to this body, and then we make our deliberations. But as the process is going on, if you have candidates that you hope to see selected, coming to council is a fool's errand. The place that you should go is the mayor, because quite frankly, we have no part of the process as he deliberates on who his nominee will eventually be. I don't know if there has been interviews. I don't know what the process is. I just know that hopefully it's going to be done. And if you have any issues, please reach out to the mayor, and we'll go from there. So President Bride is 100% correct on that in terms of coming here being not necessarily the best course of action. I look forward to seeing everybody at my community ward meetings, and have a great day. Thank you for attending this council meeting. Thank you.
And I just wanted to let everybody know, if you're interested in picking up one of those booklets, the council has now printed up a booklet with council's responsibilities, our contact numbers, the clerk's number. You can always pick one up in the clerk's office. He has them downstairs. And I think it's very helpful because it does help you understand where to take your complaint to, or whether it's going to come here and it's wasting your time. So I would encourage each and every one of you to pick one of them up. Mr. Cruz, oh yeah, I have one right here if anybody's interested in it. And Mr. Cruz, could I please ask you a question? The young lady that came up and spoke about Hills Place and Furman Street, Federal Center, which is not my ward, but it doesn't matter. But I know that I had sent in complaints about that issue of that property. Did someone talk to her tonight, because she sat there patiently? If someone can take her information.
Yes.
I've already sent a complaint to the mayor's office on this.
Yes, we did.
You did?
Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Fenwick did.
Okay.
So we will be addressing the issue.
All right, thank you.
And police department, I'm also
Okay.
speaking with the police director and the director of DPW as well.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. Okay,
Councilman Joseph Harrison?
I want everybody to know this Saturday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., there's an illegal dumping cleanup 173 Walnut Avenue in the alleyways. So I want to council people that does wear boots, put it out there and try to help the community. Secondly, I want to tell you about the Trek Post and the Chambersburg Baseball Association. They're offering 30 free baseball scholarships for boys and girls ages 4 to 12 years old. Qualified families must live in Mercer County, make less than $75,000 per household, must not currently sign up any other Cal Ripken baseball program. To apply for this children's scholarship, email the Trek Post at trekpost@gmail.com, or you may apply in person at the Chambersburg Association building at 470 Chambers in Chestnut Avenue and Kent, which is Columbus Park, Monday through Wednesday, 4 to 7 p.m., and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Also, telephone numbers 609-310-5030. Thank you.
Councilman Santiago?
Well, I promised Mr. Cruz that I was going to ask him a question. It's in reference to the vehicle fleet. Said that there's a contract. How you were going to be working on that?
Yeah, so how is the progress of the,
Yes.
So, We actually got the specification from the company who will be supplying the software. They gave us a set of specifications. We are actually looking at the type of, specking out the type of equipment that we'll be using because it needs a new server. And right now we don't have new servers in the city that can take the software that we will be using. But that's the process that we're in.
In the meantime, that cannot be done manually. That's how I used to do it over there for years. I did that.
Well, so we have, if you're talking about the vehicles, we have a list that was distributed to the council via email. So if you haven't gotten your copy, I'll be more than glad to send you the what we have on hand.
But what I want to see is the schedule, the service, preventive maintenance services schedule.
Yes.
That's what we have to develop. I don't think it takes, we could start it manually. Somebody could do it, but it's not. Doesn't now require a computer, really.
I can inquire to the department, Councilman, as to see what it is that they currently are using, and whatever is available, I can provide it to the council.
Also, question, how recently, about 4 months ago, we approved to buy 20, I think about 20 vehicles for the police department, brand new ones. My question, either you can answer it or the lieutenant can answer it, is how are those vehicles distributed? Because somebody told me that the new ones go to the higher ups, and then they give theirs to the rank and file. I don't believe that's the way it should be, because we didn't buy the vehicles, we bought the vehicles because they are in the streets, not parks or where else. Or not for somebody to go home with them. So that we could start patrolling the street where this young lady was talking about Pierce Place, the 500 block of Lamberton Street. I know her from there because she's always cleaning and she takes care of her family from there. And we have to start doing something about the safety. I have been getting complaints from small businesses where they claim that these drug dealers are forcing themselves inside their businesses to make their dealers. I happened to go to one of these small businesses and I saw it. And so it's something that an investigation will take 6 months, a year. What I believe, my personal belief is that the majority of the people that I see going down in the streets in Trenton are outsiders, coming from Canada, coming from Montgomery, with the they're catching the train down, all coming from Newark, from all over the place. They come in, since we have so many vacant homes, they sit by your house there. First day is 1, second day is 2. In about 2 weeks, we have 10 of them there, playing dice, playing cards, and harassing our residents. Our residents have to let them stay, or they can take over one of these vacant houses, but there's so many of them. But now they're taking over their small businesses. Have complaints. Broad Street, Lamberton Street, small businesses that have been taken over. So hopefully those new police cars goes to the rank and file.
So, Councilman, to your point about businesses being concerned of illegal activities taking place in their premises or surrounding areas, Acting Director Doyle has actually been very active when it comes to those concerns. I had a group of merchants that reached out to me, and they made us aware of some situations that were taking place in a couple of the businesses, and Acting Director actually went there himself along with the lieutenant and investigated a couple of those businesses, and we will be actually having a safety meeting with that group of merchants in the next couple of days. We need to can check the acting director. In fact, I have a couple of text messages from the person who was taking the lead on the group, and we will be addressing it. And I would ask that whatever information any members of the council has with regards to concerns of your nature, to please reach out to me immediately or the director, and we're taking stuff, we're taking matters, we're taking them serious, and he is literally acting on per call. If I call him within a half an hour, he's at the business himself. So I'm actually a witness of that. So he is being very proactive.
We were told to bring it to the attention of one of the mayor's aides. I have been doing that. The case of this place, I went there, I saw this place, and I came in person, and that was about a month ago.
So I would suggest to you that whenever you perhaps want to do a visit like that, you can reach out to me or reach out to the director, and he will make it a point to also be part of that contingency to go with you there and address the concern. Okay.
Councilwoman Robin Ball.
Yes. I guess where I want to start is with, I just want to be educated, Madam McBride and City Clerk Harris, on some rules and procedures. First and foremost, I just want to say that I would like to think that I got elected, and the reason why I ran for office is to solely represent the people. People, primarily, of course, within my ward. I show up here on alternate Tuesdays and Thursdays for the people and only for the people. I give favor to the people. I give deference to the mayor. I give deference to my president, Madam McBride, and my vice president, Carla Wilson. However, that's all I give them. I give total power to you all. And having said that, I come to this meeting to hear you guys, no matter what the topic, whatever you want to talk about, whatever you want to say, I want to hear it. And I don't want that jeopardized in any way. I believe in the Constitution of our country that says freedom of speech. So long as you're not violating anybody or hurting anybody, you have the right to say what you want, when you want, and particularly, I would think, in a public meeting. We have a statute, I believe, a law called OPMA, Open Public Meetings Act. And I just want some clarity from our law department, Mr. Bridges, Mr. DeWitt, and also the city clerk, on roles and responsibilities and behavior, by our council members, our elected officials, and by the public when it comes to what we're supposed to be doing in this forum. Good question. So, Mr. Harris, I'll start with you. If you can tell us, when it comes to the public comments, is there any subject matter or topic that's off limits?
To answer your question specifically, when it comes to public comments, the public is allowed to address the governing body on any matter they choose to.
Mr. DeWitt and Mr. Bridges, is there any laws, do you concur with Mr. Harris?
As long as the topics are handled and discussed in a reasonable, respectful manner, I agree.
I agree with you too, however, there are, under Robert's rules, there are rules in terms of how you engage, how you address each other. There are rules under Robert's Rules of Order that City Council has already adopted, formally adopted as an ordinance. If there's a
education session you would like on Robert's Rules of Order, I'm happy to provide that, but it's spelled out pretty clearly under Robert's Rules of Order how the meeting is to preside, who runs the meeting, how long people have to talk, and what the repercussions are for violations of Robert's Rules of Order. It's a question that cannot be answered in a sentence. It's a question that depends on the circumstances, the facts of the situation, and what's being addressed and what the issues are. So if there's a specific question you have as to this meeting, I'm happy to answer, but if you ask that in a vacuum and abstract, it's going to be difficult to respond to.
My question is, again, Mr. Bridges, are there any topics that are off limits? Does Robert Rules of Order has any rule that says there are only, hypothetically, perfect example, a member of the public cannot challenge the mayor or ask about the mayoral process or procedures?
That is a legal question. If you're asking me to come up with some examples of questions that would be off basis and not proper, I can come up with them.
I think my,
Yeah, it would be appropriate, but no, and those are the questions that you just posed to me is a properly asked question, provided it's in the confines of the time allotment, and provided, as counsel said next to me, it's done respectfully and pursuant to how the governing entity, the governing person, in this instance, council president, directs it.
okay. And I bring up this not to be contrarian or try to grandstand or override the position and the power of my president, Catherine McBride. My question is authentic because, again, I have a website called Westmore Central. My constituents email me, text me, call me with questions around everything in the city. And a lot of questions I've been getting since September, since our last police director appointment, was around when are we getting a police director? When is Boosie already going to put a candidate forward? And what is this rolling process? He's been, I don't know how many, I lost count, to be honest. Right? It's been enacting the most important department in our city. And of course our residents should be concerned about that. Because I'm concerned about it. But I won't distract from my point. I just want to make sure that every citizen, no matter who you are, myself, Pat, Madam McBride, Madam Alva Wilson, Councilman Blakely, Councilman Rodriguez, Councilman Harrison, as well as our colleague, Councilman Michelle, and all of you guys, that when we come to a meeting together, there's nothing off limits. We're residents, we're neighbors. We all have the same interests, and that's our city. So whatever concern, how little, how small, as they say in education, no question's a dumb question, right? To Madam McBride's point, so long as you be respectful, you're not out of line, then for all intents and purposes, as our law department and our clerk has articulated, you have the right and you have free privilege to say what you want to say and talk about any topic. And particularly, for heaven's sakes, definitely challenge your elected officials. All of us up here, you can ask us anything you want. You can get up there and ask me, Mayor Bouchard, when he's going to get this police director acting, when his committee is going to finish their process. I think it's well overdue. So that's all I have to say. I think that going forward, please come. I'm here to represent you guys. I'm always looking forward to public comments. I think that's the best part of the meeting, quite frankly. So feel free to come and speak freely. And of course, be respectful. And I will practice the same. I'll always speak freely, and I will work hard to be respectful. It's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to first thank each and every one of you for coming out this evening. My colleague, Marge Caldwell-Wilson, she had mentioned the actual brochure that we created together I think it's important that each and every one of you pick one of these brochures up. Because what the brochure does is it tells you the duties of the Trenton City Council. And because my colleague asked Mr. Harris the question and the law department the question, let me interject an answer to her question. She asked about the public comment. I want to be clear to each and every one of you in this room. This chamber is the chamber to do the business of the city. The comments that come should be directed in addressing what is on the docket. In most council meetings, you only have one civic comment, and that is the comment based on the agenda. We allow you a second civic comment here in these chambers. That is not something that is mandatory. That is something that this body is doing for the public. Again, let me reiterate that. The second public comment is yield to the public based on this body, not based on the Robert's rules, because Robert rules are clear. The public comment that is made in these chambers should be made based on the docket and the agenda. So when we yield the floor to you for that second public comment, you should be mindful that it is a privilege, not mandatory, that we do that. This body has to do the business of the city. That's what we're here for. That's what we were elected to do. And if you pick up this brochure, it will tell you what the duties of this body is. The duties of the City Council for the City of Trenton. Our duty is to pass resolutions, ordinance, budget adoption of municipalities, advice and consent, investigative powers, conduct business meetings under Robert's rules, review all contracts. And we have a couple more little things that we do, but the majority of those things that we do is here in this brochure. When you understand what this body's duties are, you will come into these chambers more informed. It is not our job to take applications or resumes for any director in this city. That is the purview and the obligation and the responsibility for the administration. This body does advice and consent. Once we get that application, once we get the candidate that the mayor has chosen, they will bring that person in front of this body, and then that is when our round of questions begin, not before. If you have anything pertaining to any director, any resume that you want to submit, the best place to submit that resume is down the hall to the mayor's office. If the Board of Education has any issue with how the superintendent is performing, the place that they should go is to the mayor's office, because the mayor is the only person that can appoint board members to the Trenton Board of Education. So when you are more informed, you perform and you ask questions that are pertaining to our job, and that is why this brochure was created. I want to also say that this chamber will not be turned into a spectacle under any circumstances. Under any circumstances. Not on my watch. When you come in here, there is a certain decorum that you must have. I will not allow you to talk to me or anyone on behind this dais in a disrespectful manner. That is just who I am, and that is what I will not tolerate from any public member coming before this body. There will be decorum. When this gavel is banged and I ask you to stop, you either stop or I will have you escorted out of these chambers. I will make no exception to any rule, and that is under my watch. Now, I want to talk about the business of the city. That is what I was elected to do. I want to ask the administration, where is our award letter from DCA awarding us our transitional aid? That letter was supposed to be given to us in the middle of February. I have not heard anything from the administration about our award letter. I would like to know where that award letter is, and I would like to know what the dollar amount on that award letter says. Can somebody from the administration, the business administrator, Yoshi, whomever, could you tell me if we have that award letter?
So we were waiting for the budget address, which is what we were this happened on. So it was Tuesday. We did receive a letter yesterday. We'd like to respond to that letter before, again, we need some clarification on that letter. And then that time we'll be able to present it to the council.
Okay, and I appreciate that. And you will be able to give us the amount that's
Absolutely. Yeah, we need clarification on what on the letter itself, so on what the stipulations were.
Okay. And then this other part of the business that I would like to discuss with the administration is the budget. I would like to know when Ms. Garrett is going to make those adjustments, because the adjustments should have been made and given to me on Tuesday. I haven't heard from Ms. Garrett. All of the changes that were made to the budget that the council received should have been addressed, and it should have been turned back over to the council by Ms. Garrett. I haven't heard anything from Ms. Garrett in reference to the budget.
Madam President, yes. Ms. Garrett was actually working on the changes we requested, and we have to finalize it, but based on what the award is going to be, she should be able to provide you the changes that you requested, but we don't have the calculations because the numbers, have to be confirmed with DCA. The number is the award.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that is, the changes are contingent upon the award as well, so you can have a clearer picture.
All right, because as the administration knows that once we gave those changes to that budget, those are the only changes that should have been made.
Yes.
And so if you add transitional aid in there, that should be the only changes,
Yes.
because the administration has no right to touch that budget whatsoever.
That is correct, Madam President.
Okay, so, if we could, hear something back about roughly what time that she's gonna get the budget, because I do know that it needs to be completed by the end of this month, right?
Yes, she was actually working on conveying that information to you, but then the letter came and we haven't, yes.
All right, and so I look forward to hearing from her very soon on those issues. And as far as the police director goes, since that happens to be a hot topic, maybe the mayor wants to address that topic from his chamber, or however they want to make a statement to keep the public informed about what they're doing, or if they want to give the council a letter for us to read off, or something of that nature. But, the public wants to know where you are, where the administration is with their applications. So maybe in the near future, the mayor's office can make some type of, just inform the public about, an update on where they are, and what round of applications, where they are in the rounds of applications, if they're going to try to include this body in the process, you know, whatever the mayor is going to do, if you could just update us on that so we at least will have some information, because right now we have nothing, and so we can't speak to anything that we know nothing about.
Okay, yes, Madam President, we will convey that message to the mayor.
All right, thank you. And I thank each and every one of you for coming out this evening. Thank you for your input.